I'd like to give a very warm welcome to all of my Wall Street Journal viewers as well as my Financial Times Alphaville watchers. Today's video is called Inside the Mind of Davos CEOs. Who is the Trump crowd? I'd like to welcome all of my Davos CEOs and my viewers in 65 countries around the globe. While the top 1%, let's call them the global elites, are doing incredibly well economically and have had a huge pay raise in terms of income. And while we have lifted people out of poverty, especially in China and Asia, the people that have suffered are the Western middle class as well as the lower class. The 2008 financial crisis literally destroyed so many people's lives, and many of them have not recovered. And again, that's why a lot of them are voting for Donald Trump. It explained Brexit and Trump in one video. I've had a conversation with the CEO this week that has really enlightened me. When you look at globalization, you've got to make sure that you're doing it in a sustainable fashion that makes sense. And you also need to make sure that you're not leaving the Western middle classes behind. Everyone needs to read it about the global elite. Are they leaving their countrymen and women behind? This is a very important point. You know, Peggy has a lot of insights. Peggy attended Bilderberg. They can do things to shield themselves from what's going on with immigration. I think they need more women like Peggy Noonan and Sandra Rupp and Dana Perino at Davos, and I hope that they will give that some serious thought. You know, we may have more moderate or conservative views. You know, we all saw Brexit coming, and what she stated is that those in power see people at the bottom of the pyramid as aliens whose bizarre emotions they must now try to manage. The lower class and the middle classes have serious concern in Western countries, but I believe that right now what we need is something new, something innovative, and we need to focus on job creation and innovation in Western countries, including the United States of America. When you look at the CEOs, the retired CEOs in a place like Naples, Florida, when they were CEOs, they earned on average 20 times the average worker. And there were pensions for their workers, good health care. Meantime, you go to Davos and you're sitting around with CEOs that are making 200 times the average worker. But what really alarms me is that CEOs can go to Davos and do their deals. You need a lot more diversity of thought at World Economic Forum, because you can't have a group of CEOs who all pick the same political candidate and expect to have credibility. The media has come out in a major attack against Donald Trump, which is, we know that the media leans liberal. Only, I think it was 7% of Americans trust the media. I mean, you can get anything to be said in a poll. So despite what we hear in the media, now remember, the media is owned in the United States by just 6 corporations. It didn't used to be that way. As you can see in my other videos, it was about 50 corporations. I believe he actually is doing better than we're seeing in the media, better than we're seeing in the polls. I like the Wall Street Journal polls. I like the FT polls. I'm really impressed with the LA Times lately. And if you look at the number of people that are coming to the stadiums for these campaign rallies, I mean, he had 40,000 people show up in one state. Having worked with some of the top innovators in the entire world, I've placed chief innovation officers into Fortune 10 companies. I had been offered to do an interview on American Airlines through a video company in California that produces their series on business innovators. I was so, honored to be asked, and these opportunities don't come up every day for me. I do think this is where the corporate CEOs need to come in and start sponsoring more women. Because by investing in the most talented women on the planet, the most educated, the most experienced, the 45-year-old and over women, you will then start to get them employing more people, including in the developing world. And instead of relying on things like humanitarian aid and charity, we'll have a lot more people thriving. It gets me excited to wake up every day thinking about the possibility of working with more Davos CEOs, because I really like a lot of them and they're really wonderful people at heart. I think there needs to be a shakeup in both political parties. But there's a moral issue here, which is that you can't leave behind your countrymen and your countrywomen. In other words, instead of eliminating pensions, getting rid of jobs in the Western countries, you must start thinking about the people in your own country. And this is what we really need to get Davos CEOs to focus on. It is critically important. There is no more time to wait. There are some really interesting aspects of the Trump crowd. He's always been an advocate for women in leadership, blacks, Hispanics, you name it. Donald Trump has worked with them. I mean, remember, there are a lot of independents. In fact, 42% of America are independent voters, or identify as independents at least. And so that's going to have a huge impact on the election. There are a lot of aspects about him that I really like. I think he fights for the common man, and I think he cares about the people, and he definitely has a heart. And there's no one sitting down for a fireside chat every Sunday night talking about innovation and job creation, and that will be Donald J. Trump at his best. I can tell you that there are a lot of people who like what Donald Trump is saying. There was a headline in the Wall Street Journal, "This is the week they decided Donald Trump was crazy." There was a whole book written on how a lot of very successful CEOs, especially entrepreneurial CEOs, have a lot of energy, they're very creative, they don't sleep a lot of hours at night, and they're there for a reason. They're there to create innovative change. And yes, he's going to shake things up in a way that's needed. Have lunch with people that think differently than you. Hire people that think differently than you do. And certainly hire advisors who think differently than you do. And hire women advisors. While costs have gone up, food, housing, everything, education, they're sending their children to private schools. They live in communities where the immigrants aren't coming in. So they're not really impacted by a lot of what's going on. Women my age have seen it all. We've seen it all. We know a lot about men and women and how they interact. We know the biology. We understand the masculine, the feminine. We know that women trying to be like men doesn't work. Yes, it can work if you're sharp-elbowed and you're a masculine energy woman, but for the most part, most women don't really like that style. I would recommend the theme of the World Economic Forum in 2017 be something around the expansion and importance of the Western economy and women. We really need to focus on that. I don't believe we need more humanitarian aid or more charity. I believe we just need to invest in the most talented women on the planet and get this economy going. I created the Davos CEO Pledge for Davos CEOs to bring 2 female delegates to World Economic Forum. It's kind of the place where I think that women at my level get their next executive opportunity, they get their next clients, create new investment vehicles for female-owned businesses, as well as get hired by corporations for the big jobs. I could give you a long list of the who's who of people that I've been in the same room with, but it would include some of the most powerful people on Wall Street, bankers, CEOs. I never ended up marrying one yet, although it's a possibility in the future, in part because they travel so much. I definitely have wanted to meet a CEO where I could work with him, or he's retired, and that would work out really well for me. So, I used to have lunch at the Four Seasons, so it was very common to have the most powerful men in business, coming up. And anyway, that's a little bit more about me. I have always had a heart for people in every category of society. We will tell you like it is, okay? We're not going to pretend like everything's okay and, elite global land. We're going to tell you who's suffering. Some of what's going on with immigration is actually resulting in the rape of women, Western women in Europe. And as Peggy pointed that out in her article in the Wall Street Journal, some of the global elite are kind of turning the other way. I see way too many CEOs hiring male executive coaches and advisors, and I believe these problems will be solved by men and women working together. That's the only way. That's why I call it the yin and yang of leadership. You know, when I was in executive search, I'm now an executive coach, but when I was in executive search, to get innovators, you need new thinking of ways of doing things. So what you want to do is get someone who doesn't have the industry experience, in this case politics. Listen to what Donald Trump has to say, and I think you'll hear a man who says it like it is. He has a heart, and he wants to do the right thing for the American people. He knows a lot about the negative effects of globalization, and you know, I'm a descendant of a Mayflower Pilgrim, actually the Reverend William Brewster. He was the minister and the only college-educated person on the Mayflower. He had studied at Cambridge, I studied at Oxford and Kellogg. And we need to be proud of our country. We need to be focused on the values that were great, that made this country great, including the U.S. Constitution, including freedom of speech, including the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms is about the right to prevent tyranny. The Republican Party is going through a major transition, so I want everyone to know that I am not alarmed that people like the George Bushes and Romney. I'm not worried that they're not supporting Donald Trump. I've met him twice. I like him. Donald Trump was also born in the boroughs of Manhattan. He was born in Queens. He was not born in high society Manhattan. So he had to work his way up, and his father taught him that working hard was the way to succeed. And if you want someone who's going to work hard for the people and create jobs and build infrastructure and get this economy going, but I would like you to know that much like Peggy Noonan, who pulled her cab driver in London, you know, everyone I'm talking to is voting for Donald Trump. After what happened in the financial crisis of 2008 and what has happened in the media, they believe the only choice at this point is Donald Trump. And they're actually, many of them are very happy with Donald Trump. There's a wonderful saying by Steve Jobs, you know, it's the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And I believe that Donald Trump will very likely win this election. And I'd like to also give a warm welcome to my Davos CEO, who I talked with this week, because as much as we may disagree on politics, I know that we have a lot in common and that we want to create a better world. That they really need to concentrate on the economy in the Western country. They need to concentrate on gender parity in Western countries. If any of you would like to have me on your podcast, your audio cast, radio show, video show, what have you, I would love to participate. We need to have a lot more views of women at Davos. You can watch those both on my YouTube channel and on my Davos blog. So if you'd like any executive coaching on any topics related to business, leadership, politics, any of the above, you know, I have a very unusual personality type. It's kind of a combination of Albert Einstein and Princess Diana. And a good brainstormer, so I come up with a lot of creative solutions for people. And you can buy my new DVD on Amazon.com called Career Navigation, 7 Steps to Success. And you can find it on Amazon.com. Just look for Sandra Rupp, or go to sandrarupp.com for more information. Thank you so much to all my viewers in 65 countries around the globe. Take care. Bye.